Welcome to Creative Bites, your go-to podcast for an inspiring mix of creativity, entrepreneurship, communications, and much more. I'm your host, Ivona Fluda, and in each episode, we will bring you compelling stories from the movers and shakers across various industries. We will discover how ideas evolve, how communication shapes our world, and how the entrepreneurial spirit drives progress. Whether you're looking for inspiration, innovation, or just a good story, you will find it here. So tune in, join the conversation, and explore the many facets of creativity with us. The following conversation is with Mariya Koteva. Her personal journey through challenges of health and well-being sparked her passion for unlocking the potential of the human body and brain, inspiring her to guide others in their paths to improved health. Mariya's work is underpinned by a strong belief in the transformative power of understanding and aligning with the psychological and physiological systems of the body. Through her holistic and scientifically backed approaches, she helps individuals navigate the complexities of modern life and achieve their full potential. Mariya, it's such a great privilege to have you here today. I know that you're a huge fan of wellness and fitness and in general, all of the health topics. How did you end up doing so?
Oh, it's a bit of a long story. I'm originally from Bulgaria, and I moved to Belgium about 12 years ago to study my master's in financial management in the business school in Belgium. So I was very much oriented into the business world and corporate and so on. After I graduated, I found a job locally in Belgium, implementing ERP systems. So basically Dynamics 365, a kind of the ERP system from Microsoft. And I've been doing that for over a decade. Then beginning of 2020, January 2020, our son was born. So in the meantime, I married a Belgian, we created a family. So our son was born in January 2020. Then, as you know, Corona came as well. I never really managed to get maternity leave because I've been doing a freelance projects for not only for Microsoft but other companies as well. So it was quite busy professionally. I had several employees working for me as well at that moment. And then with the arrival of our son, of course, that didn't help in terms of stress and managing to balance work, private, health, stress, and so on. And then, over the next couple of months, things just accumulated. And I suppose it's just a combination of different factors, right? The fact that we were kind of also taken away that support system in terms of having our friends around and families around, especially for a young mother living abroad, not having my family around and so on. It was very, very hard. I was also among the first ones from my close girlfriends that had a baby. So I also didn't have that experience and sharing, of what to expect and how to deal with the first months that are the most difficult ones. So I think it was a combination of a lot of factors that came together at the same moment. And at some moment, I started realizing that I'm not feeling the way I should be feeling. I was constantly exhausted. Kilos didn't go away after giving birth, but they actually kept coming more and more. So that was really, of course, not what a young mother would would ideally like for herself. Then also joint pain started here and there, absolutely not explainable, right? I've been to the doctor's office many times for blood tests, and they all came back with the result of everything is normal, nothing is wrong in your blood tests. You're just a young mother. It's normal that you're feeling tired, exhausted, constantly having virus infections that last longer than with my baby. So all of those things I think it took about 2 years. Must have been 2 years because I remember the last time I went to the doctor was when my son just turned 2. And again, the blood was drawn, everything was fine. But by that time, honestly, I was feeling so exhausted that I couldn't go through the day. Like I had to start working part-time simply because I just couldn't manage my energy levels anymore, let alone be the mom I wanted to be, right? That was for me even more, mentally, it's also very hard, right? when you're not only not performing well at work, but also at home, things start to shift into negative direction. So then you realize that it's really time to change something. And but yeah, then again, I went back to the doctor again, and at that moment, yeah, the blood was normal again, and I received the recommendation that maybe I should go to the psychiatrist because there is no physical reason why I would feel like that. And that was really an eye-opening moment for me to say, okay, I've had enough. This is obviously not the path I need to stay on. For me, I just cannot accept that this is my new normal. This is not how how I normally felt. You know, at that moment, I was 32 years old. I've always been a very dynamic, very ambitious person, driven by just a curiosity about the world, you know, the desire to live and to explore a lot of different things. And I just hadn't been that person for those 2 years. And that bothered me a lot. I really just wanted to be myself again. And at that moment, when I heard this at the doctor's office, I decided that it's time for me to take things in my own hands, even though I was tired, but still. Luckily, I've always been very interested in the human body. You know, when I was at school, my favorite subject was biology. So the secrets of the human body have always been very interesting for me. So combining those things, I decided to start looking for myself for the answers. So I spent a lot of months researching, and of course, you can't believe or take everything you read on the internet. So you really have to specify your sources and search very carefully and be very critical in what you're taking for granted and not. So a lot of medical research, trying to put the puzzles together. And then I discovered lifestyle medicine and the impact that our daily choices have on our health, right? How we eat, when we eat, how we sleep, how we rest, how we sit, how long we sit, how we move. All of these things have a tremendous impact on us. And of course, a lot of our emotional health, spiritual health, how we interact with other people, what we tell ourselves. Even all of this is part of the big picture that contributes a lot to how we feel at the end of the day and in the beginning of the day, of course. So slowly by slowly, I started adjusting things in my life, and only after a couple of months, maybe 3 or 4 months later, I was already feeling like a new person. Of course, my transformation took longer than that, and I mean, to be honest, I'm still going through transformation. I don't think that this ever finishes once you're on such a path of self-discovery. However, the difference was very noticeable only just after a couple of months, and I started getting these compliments from everybody, like, "Oh, the energy you have, you know, it's very nice. How you're changing. It seems like you found a way." All of these things, and that gives you a lot of energy, of course, and you yourself have that energy back to continue discovering what else is out there. In those first months, I also helped a couple of girlfriends around me that were struggling with similar things, and I received like a really, how to say, a very very nice feeling of this having impact on my surrounding, and showing people that there are a lot of things that we need to unlearn about what our well-being is and how we take care of ourselves. And a lot of people around us, they experience things and they don't even realize these are screaming signals of their bodies for help, right? In our society, it's become normal to be tired, to be getting up with not really a desire to go to work and feeling sluggish all the time. And the solution to it all is just to go to the fitness 3 times a week, right? So that's basically how it's normal in our society, and that's it's long not the case. So yeah, I got this very good feeling of helping friends, and then a couple of months later, through a retreat, I went to Kenya, kind of a personal reflection on things. I decided to focus more on that, and I started studying. So I started studying 2 different masters, orthomolecular medicine and clinical psychoneuroimmunology, which are basically connecting the different systems in our bodies, you know, our brains with our immune system and our endocrinology and all of these different systems. There are many, many, right? How
Before
they
we
influence.
jump into that, I'm super curious
Yeah,
to learn
yeah.
specifically, what was your journey? What were the things that really helped you on the way? Because you mentioned, which is very important, you didn't have the support system in a way, you didn't have your family there, you're a foreigner in the country. It was a new role for you, you know, becoming a mother. you were also a business owner, so you had different, let's say, kind of pillars of your life that started to fall apart because you started to feel very, very unhealthy in general. And then there was this diagnosis: look, everything is fine with you, except for maybe you can go and check it with a psychologist or a psychiatrist. But then you decided, which is very interesting, because you decided to go to take everything in your hands and to do it yourself. So I'm very curious to learn about the specific tactics or specific things that you then discover really work for you well.
Well, one of the things, and that that of course has its positives and negative effects, is I've always been somebody that is kind of a rebellion. You know, I don't always take the status quo as this is something that we've always done like this and it should be done like that. So I always kind of challenge these things. Okay, maybe not always is not the right word, but I mean, when I feel that something else could be done instead of what is currently the situation, then I always stand up and I speak for my ideas. So this is one of the things that I think was very important in that moment, because I just did not accept this as it's normal that you feel like this. Because I also, especially now that I also work with patients, I hear so often how they're told that they just need to learn to live with it, and there is no other option, and there is no cure, or there is no, you know, for their symptoms. And it's just a pity, because a lot of people actually take this as it is what it is, right? And it's a pity because we're having this collectively lost energy from our society, and I just wonder how our world would look like if we could give back all of that energy to these people that are suffering with you know, the chronic tiredness, because this you have with any chronic condition that you can think of. You always have the tiredness. So just imagine if you could give back that energy to people. So this was one of the things, like, okay, use your own common sense, your own intelligence, your own feeling of what's right and what's wrong, and your own intuition of it's time for me to take charge of my own well-being, my own health. And if I feel that something is wrong, then I need to keep searching for the answers. And sooner or later, they will come. That was a big thing for me. Next to it was absolutely my husband. I get emotional every time I share this, but for me, you know, when you're younger and you hear the advices of the more experienced women about it's crucially important who you marry. I can really confirm this right now, because he's been absolutely a cornerstone in my transformation. I wouldn't have been able to go through that without him. So he was there absolutely in every step. Supporting me when I wasn't feeling okay, you know, picking up the slack basically, and making sure that things are done, and also supporting me through, look, I see what you're going through, and I understand it, and I'm here for you, and to whatever it takes until you're feeling better. Yeah, I'm still very emotional about it, because not that I don't believe that every husband should be like this, but I also know that this is definitely not the case, right? Not everybody has the support at home that I have, and I'm really grateful for that. So for me, this was a second thing. Indeed, my family from Bulgaria was not around in the beginning, or not enough during Corona. But I absolutely can say that my husband being around had a tremendous impact on me being able to go over the the edge to getting better again. So that was incredible. So yeah, definitely that support system. A third one that I maybe learned later, and I wish I could have implemented earlier, was I have a tendency to not always reach out to my friends, the closest friends, when I'm initially in some difficult situation, right? So in the beginning, my friends actually didn't even know that I was feeling like this. So I was keeping this to myself, because I was maybe, shame is definitely not the right word. It's more, I thought that people would not understand, and that I'm strong. I'm not supposed to feel that way. I can't be feeling that way. It can't be happening to me, next week is going to be better. These kind of things that I was telling myself in the beginning. And I remember that when I started opening up to my friends, which was months, maybe a year later, of me not feeling well, there were a lot of them are actually quite surprised. Because I always put that mask of everything is fine with me and so on and so on. And then the support that I received then from them, I realized like, I wish I have done it earlier. Yeah, we don't have to be that strong always. And it's fine to say you need help, and it's fine to say that maybe you're in a situation that's less than ideal or less than what you would have wished for. And that's exactly the strength of those friendships, right? The beauty of it, the support that you get out of it, and the motivation to get better. So yeah, that's the third thing that I didn't do enough, and I wish I had done earlier.
Thank you for sharing. That's definitely important. The environment we are part of, the people we are surrounded by, and their support, or sometimes also the fact that sometimes people are not able or cannot help us if needed, which is kind of the other aspect of seeking for help and knowing to whom we can really open up with our, challenges.
And it's very ironic, right, in our society where we're surrounded by social media and we're so connected all the time. It's really crazy to think how much loneliness there is around us, right? Every one of us feels so lonely in a society that's supposed to be more connected than ever before. Yet each of us is so lonely and so going through their own struggles in their own way. Yeah, it's something that we definitely need to reflect on, right? Also, it's even proven scientifically that the feeling of loneliness, even if you're surrounded with, I don't know, 50 friends, but deep inside there is this longing and this feeling of loneliness. I'm alone in the world. Sometimes it's not even consciously understood. It's laying very deep, so you have to go and search for it. It comes up in different situations. It's even proven, so where I started from is scientifically proven that feeling only brings a lot of much higher risk of actually developing chronic sicknesses. It's actually worse than smoking. It's worse than drinking. The effect that it has on your body, it's tremendous in a negative way, of course. So it's something that we definitely need to rethink in our society. We are more connected than ever, and yet everybody's more lonely than ever.
That's very interesting that you mentioned that even science backs this one up. How do you define for yourself a true connection? Because I also feel like sometimes we feel lonely because there's a lack of true deep connections in our life.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
How do you define a true deep connection? Or, in your environment, what would be the examples of deep, true connection that make you feel actually, not love, that make you feel just accepted and safe and celebrated?
Yeah. For me personally, how I recognize those relationships is when I can freely be myself with my positive and negative sides, because we all have them, right? We're never the perfect people. And for me, when I can show them both, the good and the bad, and the person on the other side is still there, enjoying that and supporting me through that path, for me, this is a sign of true friendship or connection, or anything you want to call it. It doesn't really matter the term you use. So this is a good sign for me. If you always have to adjust yourself to fit in a certain environment, then probably this is not the best environment. And I'm not saying that you always have to avoid it, because it's not that easy, right? We are still part of a bigger society. Some of us move to live abroad, right? It needs adjustment. But still, it's a very good check-in point with yourself to see, okay, I don't always feel myself maybe, but do I at least have certain situations and certain social circles where I can feel myself, because this is where I would get the energy from. But if everywhere I'm surrounded with people that I don't feel myself and I can't really open up, then this is probably not going to be the right place for you. You need to do something about it, not necessarily leave all of those circles. Again, because that's not always that easy, and maybe it's not even necessary, but you need to have the place that you can be yourself, because it's extremely important for you. It's another thing that I use in my work with my patients is and customers, right? You yourself, you're the person, and depending on the situations you're put, so you're the text and the context you're placed in, it has a tremendous also impact on your health, right? So when you as a text, you're always in the context where you cannot be yourself. This is not the right context this for you. Sorry. Then clearly this will have an impact because there's a mismatch between those two, right? So it's always about searching for the balance. You don't have to run away from everything. You need to be a certain person in certain situations, but make sure you also have the places where you can be yourself and where you can just relax and know that you're accepted and loved for everything you are.
You mentioned at the very beginning, it's very interesting that you, during your transformation, and you mentioned also you're still, going through a transformation. I feel like that's a never-ending story at the end, right? We are just going through the
Absolutely.
transformations
Yeah.
our whole lives. But you mentioned something very interesting. You mentioned that then at some point you decide to go and study, kind of dive deeper into all of the topics that you are so passionate about at that time. Could you please share a little bit more about what you learned, what really kept you going during that time? Also with studying, it's not always the easy thing to balance all of these things, your job, your private life, your child at that time, also your career.
Yeah. And you can imagine that taking the decision at 32 with a new young child. He wasn't that newborn anymore, but it was also a very confronting decision, I would say. Luckily, again, the husband was next to me and kind of gave me a little push to just follow the passion that I have at that moment. I basically dived into it, and I knew that for the next 2 years I was not going to work. I was not going to have any income, or not specifically planned. I mean, later some things popped up, which was very nice, but it was not planned at all. So yeah, that was a very big step, and again, I received a lot of support from the people around me that helped a lot, because when you do something like that, a lot of people consider it courageous. I don't know, maybe it is, maybe it's not. I never really see myself as doing something so extraordinary, right? In myself, it's always more like, can I do this? Is it the right thing to do? And then the external world sees it as something extremely brave, and they celebrate it with you, and they're extremely proud of you making this step. And then you see that you also have impact on those people back, right? Because then they dare also to do more things about themselves, dare to jump in the deep waters themselves because they see you doing it. So for me, that was a really nice thing to experience and see, like, okay, by being courageous ourselves, we also help others around us because they just see the example, and it's so much easier to then say, okay, they did it, I can do it as well, and see it's working out. And that was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, you basically inspired them to take the next steps in their careers and their dreams.
And then you keep supporting each other, right? It's like a rolling ball. And then you also know that if things don't work out at some moment, which, I mean, you always have the ups and downs, right? You also know that these people are still going to be there, and you're still going to be there for them and support each other through the path. So that is something really nice to have. So yeah, I went back studying. It was, again, eye-opening because I had to unlearn so many things that we have been taught throughout our whole life. What really is healthy, what really is good sleep, what really is good food, what really is good exercise, all of these kind of things that society tells us. It's somehow you realize that a lot of them are actually not exactly what you thought they are, and you have to just change a lot of your mindset to do that. And then I also learned that physical health is the basis for a lot of things. It's actually, my approach is always, when I work with my customers, is no matter what the problem is, we always first optimize physical health, and then we look at what's left, if I can say it like that. Because a lot of the symptoms that we experience, even mental issues, they are caused by our bodies not functioning properly, our metabolisms being shifted to different working mechanisms and so on. We're not going to go into these details, but basically our biochemistry changes, and that leads to also other things. It impacts our brain, our emotions, our spirituality, our relationships, everything. So for me, it's also always the first step of, okay, let's see how the physical body can be optimized. And then based on that, you get the energy. Your brain literally is the health governor of your body. It gets back the energy to actually deal with the rest as well, right? And then you can have a better view of what are the actual underlying issues emotionally or mentally or cognitively or spiritually or environmentally. It doesn't really matter that the physical optimization didn't influence. So they're still there. They're still causing a lot of other things, right? So then you have a much better view and you have the brain energy to actually deal with them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that was very eye-opening, because we talk a lot about mental health, which is absolutely important, right? Because a lot of us struggle with it, especially with the busy life these days and social media and the constant pressure. But we forget that our bodies are still there, and they're the ones that need to keep us driving. And by sitting 10 hours a day, we are not helping it. And yeah, maybe it's time to go back to putting our bodies first, and then all the rest will follow.
Yes,
And again, by this, I don't say that it's immediately everything is solved, right? I don't say that, but it's in the very basic of feeling good, right? It's very hard to be depressed when you play with your children, go for walks, look at the sky, have great intimate relationships with your partner. You know, it's very hard to then be depressed if you eat good, sleep good, and yeah, if your physical routine is good.
yeah. So basically, it's a kind of step-by-step process. First, you look at the physical health, then at mental health, and then at spiritual health. Could you
Yeah.
share like an
After the physical
example
health,
of,
you don't need
yeah,
to order them in a specific way, right? Because for some people,
yes.
spirituality is very important. For other people, mental health issues are more important. So it depends on the person. You kind of personalize it.
Mm-hmm.
You can also work in parallel with the physical, right? You don't have to make like a super split between those. But what I mean is, like, without improving the physical, you will not really get a lasting change in the rest as well. That's basically what my message is. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a super big split of first this and then this and then this and then this, but it's in the basis. So yeah. And that's how I also did it for myself, right? In the beginning, it's all about physical, because that's where the pain is the most, right? For me, it was a lot of physical issues. I had the mental, like, incapacity of staying concentrated and all of this. But for me, it was really, I was feeling sluggish in a physical way as well. So for me, it started from there anyway. And then I see it also with my customers. It makes a tremendous difference when you optimize this first. You're basically dealing with a whole new person after that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole different case. It's a,
Yes.
yeah, you change one little thing and it's suddenly a different perspective. Yeah.
So I see that right now you just know so much more than you know a few years ago when you started. When you
Yeah.
started to go to the doctor, started to check up everything, and
Yeah.
then at the end nothing popped out that could be cured by the
Yeah.
conventional way of healing. What would you tell to yourself, to your younger self at that moment, if you knew, from this time perspective?
Um, I think I already kind of mentioned the things, but to summarize it, it's more keep searching and don't give up. The answers are there. Believe in yourself, believe in your intuition. If something tells you that things are off, then they probably are. Maybe not for others, but for you.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely keep searching and don't give up. Yeah, this is maybe the most important part.
Beautiful, because
You know best what you feel. So
yes.
yeah.
And I'm sure that right now, with all of the knowledge and experience that you got also through your practice, you started to shift your vision for the future, right? So what is the vision for the future you have right now for yourself, for your business, and also for all of the people that you're going to support with your skills and talents?
Thank you for asking me this. As I'm very excited about it, so I can't wait to share it. Yeah, as you can see, I'm a very excited person in general. So in those 2 years of studying, going through that transformation and starting my health practice, I've also felt that I was missing something. There was still something, and I kept searching and so on and so on. As I said, trust your feelings. So I never stop until I find this. And then in the autumn, I actually had the autumn of 2023. I had a very busy period. I organized a retreat in Portugal. I had a lot of. I was trying to develop a lot of different services and so on and so on. So I had a very busy period, which also led to a bit neglecting myself. I have I have a friend who says the glue we have for our customers never stick on us. So yeah, then I realized that in that moment I wasn't taking the best care of myself as I should. You know what you have to do, but in a daily life when it gets too busy, sometimes you forget. So then the autumn was so busy that I started feeling really overwhelmed. I really didn't know how to move forward, what was stopping me, where I was going, what would make me happy in the long term. I was starting to feel very lost. And that was a very confronting feeling, exactly because of like, hey, I'm guiding other people and yet I can't find it for myself. In that specific moment, I was really feeling those 2 or 3 months, things are not going well for me. And then over the Christmas holidays, I was like, okay, I'm not working at all. I'm gonna take a break. Then in the beginning of January, I had a great experience. I went to a psychedelics retreat with somebody I've always also been to previous retreats of her, Caroline Cavens from Unplugged 48, and it's a Belgian company. So I went to that psychedelics retreat with her, and I went through a very interesting experience. I got a lot of insights, to be honest, and the most important one, and they always say you don't get what you want out of these retreats, you get what you need, and that was clearly the case for me. And one of the most important insights was for me that you need to slow down in order to really get the answers. And I definitely did that. I started spending more time with my son, picking up from school, just playing, just letting myself play in the most literal sense, also because I've even when growing up I was somebody that was studying a lot and always putting a lot of effort into self-development, and I kind of throughout my life I never really allowed myself to just play and do nothing, literally just I'm always busy. Like there is a weekend and then I think like, oh, what should I do now? I have to be busy with something, right? And that's really bad for our health, for sure. So that was something that was the next step in my transformation of learning to slow down, even though I always knew what the importance of it is. Somehow it was hard to implement it for me up until the beginning of this year, right after I went through that experience. So I started again changing things in my life to free more my mind, and then a lot of new things popped up, right? And finally, that answer of where the story started. Sorry, I made it a bit long.
It's perfect. Thank you for sharing. It's very interesting. Yeah.
I finally realized that I can connect my two worlds. The previous one of implementing business software for over a decade, the business, the corporate, and the health optimization world. It just came to me once I slowed down and once I allowed myself to just be without doing. It just came to me and I was thinking like, it's been there the whole time. So what I mentioned, like our brain being the health governor of our bodies, basically what it means is that it's responsible for the constant energy redistribution in your body, right? So you have a certain amount of energy and it needs to constantly be redistributed. It goes to your brain, or it goes to your immune system, or it goes to your endocrinology system. It's a constant, or your digestion system, whatever you name it. So this is the function of the brain. So when you're chronically sick or experiencing symptoms, right? You're constantly tired. There's a reason why you're constantly tired. It doesn't just come from you not sleeping that well. Of course, it has a influence, but it's not just that. It's bigger than that usually. So all of these things, the chronic symptoms that we experience and we don't usually pay attention to, basically are a signal that our brain is busy with keeping us in survival mode. That brain is constantly busy with, I need to redistribute that energy because it's not actually functioning optimally, and I need a lot of more work to keep that going and surviving and trying to thrive. But if your brain is busy with that the whole day and the whole night, you can imagine that there is not much capacity left for cognition, concentration, memory, adaptability, flexibility, all of these things that we expect a healthy brain to also have. What that leads to is somebody who is very rigid, not very open in their way of thinking. It's always been like that kind of attitude, very inflexible towards change, very hard to shift perspective, all of these kind of things. I've also seen it in my practice and in my studies. The sicker a person is, the harder it is to adapt to change, the less flexible they are in general. And then looking at corporations and organizations, and my experience in the last 10 years with implementing ERP systems, basically, whether ERP implementation is successful or not is very dependent on how the change management went, right? Based on basically how did the users accept that new system, new business processes, new ways of working, and so on. It's never about the system, it's about the people and how they work with the new ways of things. And if you think about those two things, you have organizations where change management, if it exists at all, because in a lot of organizations it's not even being talked about. Sorry. If it exists at all, it's somewhere in the corner. And then you have, on the other side, health and well-being, maybe in the HR department, maybe, again, not in every organization.
Yes.
And with all due respect of every effort that is being done there, I mean, I don't underestimate at all. I know it's very hard, but most of the times it's not even being taken seriously by employees and by the environment, right? So it's really a pity. So even if you have them in organizations, they're so far apart of each other that it's the connection is not being made. Wow, it's fundamentally, it's coming down to the individuals, to the people on the work floor. Do they have the capacity to accept that new thing or not? And that new thing can be anything. It doesn't have to be an ERP system, but it can be AI being implemented or coming everywhere in our lives, moving to a new office, merging with another company, having a new boss. It doesn't matter, right? We're in change every single day, and it's changing environment is now much more than before, right? Because things are moving much faster in our life, in our economy. So there is not a single organization that does not go through change these days. And there is not a single organization that does not suffer from people being chronically sick, people having burnout, depression, chronic sicknesses, diabetes, and all of these kind of things. And again, there is a huge gap between the two. We expect people to adapt and move very quickly and adjust to new things, new technologies, while they're just struggling, right? Their brains do not have the capacity to accept that new thing, even if they might want it, but it's just that they're busy with other stuff. They need to survive first. So yeah, that's what I'm really excited about these days, and I'm really looking forward to the future of how this is going to turn out. I'm working on developing potentially a new framework of how to connect those two, right? Looking into the classic change management frameworks that are already existing, like ProSci and WeChange and anything that's already out there, the very classic ones, and bridging the gap with well-being and seeing how the people being in the basis of this is extremely important. In the meantime, I also
Absolutely.
it's
Start
extremely
with the individual, right? Start with the individual and then build up, kind of create the strong foundation for each individual and then make the changes happen. Of course, very often it's not possible because, as you mentioned, change happens all the time. But I feel like if we want to see any more sustainable change in the future, we really need to start with ourselves and with the individuals in our organizations. You mentioned something important, which I'm also very passionate about, just learning, how the things are going to fall to be created for us, how we are going to co-create these things. Technology is such a huge topic these days, especially the new wave of, new technologies like AI and other technologies coming in. How do you envision, let's say, the collaboration between health topics and technology?
Very interesting topic indeed. We also see a lot of new ideas in the space of digital health, AI in health, and so on and so on. I think it's great. I definitely think it's great. It has a lot of potential to use technology for improving health, because a lot of things that we now, all of this knowledge that and even experience that you do with, you need to see 200 patients or 500 clients to actually have a certain way of working, certain knowledge, certain, that can all be done by AI, right? Of course, it takes time and so on, but a lot of these basic diagnostic things that we go through every day in sessions with customers can be just speeded up by technology. So I think it has great potential, especially in preventive medicine, where you can detect things very early, and you can actually have a huge impact on preventing serious illnesses. I think this is a huge thing to continue. And the continuous measurement of things, right? I mean, there's so many wearables and so many things, and this is where the development really goes. And I really believe in it, that and I think that a lot of it already exists. We just probably don't always know about the things that people are working on. A lot of this preventive power is there, right? Of knowing that things in your body, certain parameters are shifting, and where this leads to eventually. So this has a huge potential, yeah.
Very beautiful. What's your hopes for humanity?
I think essentially is to, when I talked about the loneliness and how we have it so much, even though we live in a society that we're not supposed to, it's maybe going back to that feeling of we are together, and we are better together somehow. We're too individualistic these days, and it's not helping us. And there is so much knowledge in the collectiveness. Even if you think about, every mother go through more or less the same things, and yet we only learn it once we are there and we go through it on our own. Even if such a simple example, right? And the same with health, and the same with when you start working, and so on and so on. And somehow you're always feeling like you're the only one experiencing this, and people would not understand, and sometimes you're too afraid to share it, so my hope for humanity is that we go back to that collectiveness, and the feeling of, I am part of a bigger thing, I belong to something bigger, and it makes me better for it, and I make others better for it. I think that's the one thing.
Thank you so much, Mariya. That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for your time today, and for sharing your journey so beautifully and so authentically. It's something so special you shared with us today, and I'm very grateful for that.
Thank you for the time. It was definitely an honor.
I wish you all the best on your journey, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you, Ivona. Have a great day.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Creative Bites. It's been a pleasure sharing these stories and insights with you. Remember, creativity is all around us, ready to be discovered, nurtured, and celebrated. I'm Ivona Fluda, and until next time, keep creating, keep exploring, and keep inspiring. Thanks for listening, and goodbye for now.